All right, so let's talk about one day of overeating. Let's talk about people that get stressed about if, like, oh, fuck, man, I've overeaten for a day. I feel like I'm going to gain body fat. I feel like everything's been undone. Here's the truth. One day is never going to cause a large amount of fat gain. One day is not going to ruin your last 3 or 4 weeks of progress. One day is not going to undo all the hard work you've done. You know what's going to undo all the hard work you've done? The fuck it mentality. The letting one bad day turn into it's Tuesday, I've already ruined my diet, might as well start again next week. That's what's gonna fuck you in the long run. It's not the one day, okay? Because I don't know what you guys think, but if you think one day is going to cause any type of catastrophic problems to your progress, that's something you need to change. How much damage do you think you can actually do in a day? I used to binge eat a lot. I used to fucking eat the whole house down. There would be nights where I was like, holy shit, I must have eaten 7,000-8,000 calories. And guess what? Weirdly, I didn't put on a kilo of actual body fat overnight. The body doesn't go into immediate fat storage mode, okay? It doesn't just turn everything you've just gained into body fat. Some people have a predisposition to gaining higher amounts of body fat when they overeat. Other people burn it as body heat. In saying this, with me saying this, right, you're not the person, do not be like, oh, well, yeah, I'm definitely the one that's going to gain all the body fat. It doesn't happen. We don't live in a vacuum, okay? We transfer energy. We burn it off as body heat. It is lost over the next few days. And the biggest thing you can do to actually cause yourself to gain body fat is to let that one day turn into 2 days, or 2 days turn into a week, because that's when people shit the bed. That's when things come undone. That's when your progress starts to go backwards. One day is not going to ruin your progress. And if it was, that would be it would be the most the body would be the shittest thing we could deal with if we let one bad day undo all of our progress, okay? Better yet, even a week. I've talked about this in, when you're sick or when you can't train, a week of not being able to train or exercise, undoing months of progress, the body would just be it would honestly be what's the point, There would be no point in trying to be healthier, because if we have one thing that undoes weeks of progress, it would just be a wasted effort. So thankfully, it's not like that, all right? And this is why we need to change that black and white mentality. This is why we can't get stuck in that all or nothing mentality and be like, well, if I can't do one thing, I might as well not do anything. Because that's when things do fall apart. That's when you will go backwards. That's when wasted effort will happen, because you put in all this effort and then you've gone from not one day, you've turned it into a week of just shitty eating, no movement, doing nothing, over consuming calories. That's when you'll gain body fat. That's when you'll undo the work. That's when things will happen, okay? It's never about the one day. And it's a good thing though, because if you do have a shit day, you get back on track. You let the one meal turn into not 2 meals, Or if you did let the 2 meals or turn into a day of shitty eating, you get back on track the next day. And when you tidy things up, it's funny, because all the stress we have, all the anxiety, we're like, oh, fuck, man, I've done so much bad. You get back on track the next day. You don't restrict. You don't do anything stupid. You just get back on track. You keep moving forwards. And lo and behold, give it a few days, the water weight drops back off. And you're like, oh, I actually didn't ruin my progress at all. Exactly. All right? Because again, the body doesn't work in just isolation of one day of overeating. And funnily enough, we will burn some of that off over the next few days when you get back on track and you just eat regularly. All of a sudden, water weight will drop off and you're going to be like, oh, I actually look okay. Because, when you have one day of overeating, yes, you're going to look bloated. Yes, you're going to feel puffy. Yes, you're going to feel like shit. But it's just because the body is just being inundated with calories that you've just shoved in your mouth. That's why you feel like shit the next day. And you know what makes you feel more like shit? Letting that one day, again, turn into a week. Because you can keep eating shitty food. You can keep looking puffier. You can keep doing that stuff. And then you will start to accumulate body fat over time. Right? Pick your poison, okay? I'm trying to help you guys understand that one day is not going to cause fat gain. One day of missing the gym isn't going to ruin your results. One day isn't going to do fuck all. Exactly in the other direction, one day of exercising, one day of eating healthy, one day of moving more isn't going to do anything for you in the long run. This is why consistency, I always say consistency over perfection matters, but also it is the long-term behaviors, okay? If we look at 365 days of the year and you, let's say, out of 12 months, 365 days, 2 months, so 8 weeks of that whole year, right? Which is 20% of your year, right? The 80-20 principle, it's probably like 15% of your year. If you were on track for 10 months and within that time frame, 60 days have been, off, right? You will have seen results. You will have gotten good results, okay? Because it's the majority, not the minority. It's the majority, not the minority. Yet we get so fucking caught up in the minority. We get so caught up in that one day, that one specificity, that one thing. And that's not what's undoing you, It's not, especially like when it comes to Christmas time. It's not Christmas Day that ruins people's progress. It's letting Christmas Day it's letting basically from the 16th for some reason, or the 15th or whatever it is, it's letting from that being like, well, fuck it, I'm going to have a bad Christmas anyways. I might as well just shit the bed. And you go 15 days consecutively for the rest of December, eating like shit, not moving, not exercising, not sleeping well, not doing all those things. Of course, you're going to go backwards if you do that. But guess what? If you enjoyed Christmas Day, and let's say Christmas Eve or Boxing Day, God forbid you do all three, and you have 2 Christmas parties, so you do 5 days out of 31 days where they're not the best, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to outweigh? Is it going to be the 25 days of consistency or the 5 shitty days? Do you really think 5 shitty days out of that month is going to undo the whole year worth of progress, or the last few months worth of progress? No. But if you let those 5 days turn into 10 days, turn into 15 days, turn into 20 days, turn into a whole month, then yes, absolutely, you're going to go backwards. But this is why we need to get out of that mentality. Like I said, if you can change that thought process and get out of that fucking mentality and stop thinking that you're going to gain all this body fat from one day of overeating, and you change that and you work on not absolutes, but relatives, being like, all right, I'm going to get myself back on track, you will put yourself in a better place. You will set yourself up, for long-term success. I'm telling you right now. All right? So change that mentality. Okay? Now, also in saying this, again, you overeat for one day, you're scared you're going to gain body fat, you get on the scale the next day and you're like, oh, my weight's gone up. Well, guess what? Of course it's going to fucking go up. What do you think's going to happen if you overeat? What do you think is going to happen if you eat something that's high in sodium, high in carbohydrates, highly processed, just full of calories? What do you think is going to happen when you're going to bed full, stuffed to the brim? Do you think magically your weight's going to go down? No. And people weigh themselves and like, oh, I knew it, I undid all my progress. Well, you didn't undo all your progress, but of course your weight's going to be up. So if you're going to do that and it's going to make you just feel shit about yourself, don't weigh yourself. You've already overeaten. You know your weight's going to be up. Your weight's probably going to be up for a few days. All you do is you get back on track, all right? I don't know why we like to self-sabotage ourselves when we do this shit. So get out of that mentality of that one day, okay? And again, you can overeat on one day and it's not going to be the end of the world. I'm telling you guys, you need to change this mentality. And when you start to think differently and you start to be like, all right, well, it is what it is. I fell off track, okay? I'm going to get back on track. I'm not going to compensate the next day. We don't starve ourselves the next day. We don't over-exercise the next day. We don't try and do anything to compensate. We just get ourselves back on track, okay? We get back to our diet. We get back to our healthy training behavior. We get back to our healthy lifestyle. We get back to our steps and all those things. And I can tell you right now, you do those things, you are going to be setting yourself up for success in the long term, okay? I know it's a hard mentality to break, and I know it's easy to get caught up in that fucking mentality, but it is a lazy mentality. It is a very lazy mentality, because when we say fuck it, guess what that means? We don't have to worry about anything. When we say fuck it, it's easy just to eat whatever. It's actually hard to stop falling down, to stop the momentum downwards. But because we say fuck it, we're like, oh, I'll start again tomorrow. It's a lazy mentality to get ourselves out of the good habit. So you've got to fight that urge and you've got to start to get yourself back on track. All right? I hope that helps. If you guys have any questions, if you get stuck with this, you know where to message me at tysonthetrainerr with 2 R's on Instagram. And until next time, friends, speak to you then.